Hey, Ben here with Stu on the Lake again. So here's another in the gnome series. Some of the gnomes that went down. This is a little Santa Claus gnome, and it's made the same concept as the other gnomes. Very simple. It's designed to be hung up. There's a ribbon that's going to go through here. I did not get some photos of this painted, but he's painted Santa Claus styley, red gloves, white fluff around the top of his glove, and white fluff around the hat. So how do we do it? We do it just like we do all the other gnomes. Got no eyes, hidden up under the hat. This is a scrap piece. This is one of the ones that came off of the Christmas tree. If you subscribed or are a subscriber, you've probably already seen the Christmas tree posted a couple days ago. If not, go ahead and subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Leave a comment for me on there, how you like them. And give the channel a little bit of support. Thanks a lot if you've already done that. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? So we got a cut saw. Whoops, I lied. That's a saber green, and it's I don't know, heck, it's one of the long elongated kind of a spear shape. And I'm just going to cut around the hat. Most of this video is going to be in 2 times, maybe a couple parts of it 3 times the speed. And I think some told this guy might have had a half an hour in it of carving. And just to give you a ballpark, I would suspect he'd sell in the $30 to $40 range. I honestly don't remember what I priced him at, but I would suspect that's where he's going to go with the painting and the rest of that. So if those of you that are trying to sell carvings and that sort of thing, it meets, you've heard me talk before, if I'm farting around, I'm looking for $20 an hour. And by the time I get through with supplies and things like that, to support the overhead, this guy kind of fits that bill. Nothing too exciting, but it's fairly simple to carve. It's mindless. You don't have to think about it real hard. This is, I've got 2 or 3 more videos that I need to catch up on. I've been doing a lot of work on a commission piece, and hopefully in the next couple weeks I'll have some answers on whether I can show you how that's done. I do intend to put together a series on how you go about selling your carvings and that sort of thing, and then specifically how you get into the commission part of it, where someone will commission you to do a piece, and how to set that up and avoid a couple of pitfalls that are in there. So this guy is a little bit unique in the fact that he really doesn't have a body. He's got the beard sticking out in the front. The 2 pieces on the left and right side that I'm doing are arms, and then about halfway down the arms, or a little less than half, he's going to end up with mittens. So big red mittens with a thumb. And the order of the day is simple and nothing complicated here. So no fingers, just a thumb on a rounded mitten, rounded beard, rounded hat, and kind of a half. And he's a little bit larger, which kind of puts him in my book. If I was to make him a little bit smaller and hang him on a tree, then he loses a lot of the appeal. The appeal to me being it's kind of bulky. It's a little bit large. It'll hang on the Christmas tree as an ornament just fine, and yet it still looks like it's carved. Now you could certainly do this with a knife. I know a lot of the knife people are doing stuff similar to this out there, and it's that time of year. It's Christmas time, and the easiest thing to do is Santa Clauses, and the easiest Santa Claus to do is a gnome Santa Claus. I am going to post a couple of retro videos of Santa Claus ornaments that I've done, or a Santa Claus ornament I did in the years past and that sort of thing. I'm just going to redo that video briefly to add it for the Christmas time. So how do you get rid of your carvings? Well, this is a perfect time of year to get rid of your carvings. At some point, if you're getting into carving, and we're setting up right there, that's going to be the rough around, or the fluff or rough around his gloves. And I'm going to show you kind of a unique treatment at the end of this one to get those to do what you want them to do. So there's going to be the thumb, and you kind of get an idea of what's going on now with this character. And he's pretty straightforward. So if you're doing a lot of carving, or you start getting into carving and you're doing a lot, initially your wife or your husband, your kids, relatives, that sort of thing, will start taking an interest in them. You'll know if you've got it by people being interested in your carvings. And at that point, you give them away. You let them have them, except for the one or two that you particularly want to keep. If you don't, you're going to end up with 100 or 200 carvings laying around like I have, and no way to get rid of them. So as you keep cranking these things out, they got to go somewhere. Well, initially, you're probably better off giving them away. Christmas time is a great time to give them away. In fact, a lot of people love to get carvings, and eventually you'll know you've made it 2 or 3 years into carving when people are saying, I don't have one of your carvings. And that's the point that you ask them, what would you like? And then you start getting into almost a commission type of thing, only you're not getting paid. And they say, I'd like an owl. What kind of owl? About this big, about this tall, this style. So now you're in the commission work, albeit your commission is free. You carve that owl for that person and specifically for them. And then at some point, you come across some stuff and you find a nice little place that you can sell those. I found that Etsy's not the greatest place to sell stuff. We got a lot of gawkers on Etsy. They look at things, but they don't like to buy. eBay, not so great to sell things on. The best place is a shop, and the best shops are usually a novelty or a gift shop, a local one, especially if you're carving local items. Like up here in the Northwoods, it's loons that seem to go, and birds, and that sort of thing. Watercolor paintings of the local area. So people are vacationing, they got a little extra money to spend, they want to take something home with them. So something of local character. Now, if you were out in New England, per se, you would do some of the older things, Schimmel eagles, the shipboard carving signs, that sort of thing. And then how do you price them? Well, like I said before, I try to shoot for $20 an hour, and that's really not a great wage. I can assure you, my real job, I get paid substantially more than that. So when you do the math and you add it up, this is not profitable. You almost have to be retired or doing larger projects and doing this full time. But once you start carving full time, say you were carving 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, the fun kind of goes out of it. When I start to do a commission project like the two that I've got going on now, I'm excited at this point right now for those. But along the same lines, I also know that I'm making those for a client, and they have to be in the style that they agreed upon. We set up and we designed, and they approved. So towards the end of it, I'll have 100, 150 hours in the project, and I really can't take a license. So on this guy here, if I were to mess something up, he has no buyer. He's just something I'm doing to play around with. And if I run across a challenge or I see something unique and I want to go in a different direction, I'm free to do that. If I'm doing a commission piece, I'm not. I'm locked into the nitty-gritty of staying exactly on design, exactly on dimension, and then I have to do the finish work in a professional manner. I can't short stroke it or just stop in the middle and say, okay, I'm happy with that. I have to continue to being that. It becomes a little bit more of a job at that point, as opposed to an artistic event. So this guy is he's gonna have that ribbon through the top of his hat there. There are no complicating parts on this that even a beginner could not pull off. And what I have in there now is a Cuts-All large ball. And I've talked about the balls before. when I'm carving. The ball allows me to go in any general direction. So the best equivalent would be I'm using that as a pencil eraser, and I'm erasing portions of the wood. That allows me to get the contours, the shapes, and everything down fairly rapidly, keeping in mind that the ball will not go into tight spaces like up underneath the hat and up around the nose. So there you can kind of see what's going on and how he is. This would be actually be a pretty good carving to put in a mold, and then pull resin molds out, or put in not a resin. That's not what I want. I guess it is resin, but they make some resins that mimic wood. So you'd put it in a mold and mold this guy, and then you could crank out a bunch of these. Well, all of a sudden they go from, instead of being $20 to $30 a piece, you can probably afford to make these for $10 or $15 a piece. I found over the times that we've owned the wood carving shop many years ago, and then just various different galleries and shops that I've had carvings in, a lot of times people come in and they see your larger projects. An example would be a large eagle, a large fish sign, something along a large decoy, and we're talking in the $1,200 to $1,500 range. It's a spectacular carving. They're interested in that carving, or they're interested in a decoy for $600 or $700, or a fine carving, but they just can't make the move to do that. But they love your work, and they want something. So if you had a little resin cast, painted up guy like this guy was cast, and he were $15 or $20, you don't get the $1,500 sale, but they feel like they need to get something of your work, and therefore you can sell this guy for $15. Now you can imagine if you sell 20 or 30 of these for $15, it starts to pay a decent wage. So I'm working the top of his cap, and I'm going to show you something at the end of this, just to change up this guy just a little bit and allow him to be more Santa Claus-y. Before, we've been doing straight gnomes. They've got Christmas hat painted colors on them. Now you can do gnomes any time of the year. People seem to like gnomes, and there's 100,000 different ways to copy those. So you look on the web, you search down, and you find a picture or a photograph or a item that you like. You don't have to worry about copyright on that. The only time you have to really worry about copyright is, and it's the simplest, would be a Mickey Mouse or something along those lines, a character, Marvel character, where it's obviously the same character. That is licensed and copyrighted, and if you made it big, you could, and made a lot of those and started selling them, making money, they could reasonably create a lawsuit. Now, if you were to take this item of mine and carve him and put him for sale, it's not really a problem. My son oldest son went to Ringling School of Art and Design down in Sarasota, Florida, and he tells me that the copyright law says that you have to change the item by 10%. So that's kind of vague, but you'd have to change this guy by 10%. Well, I can assure you, unless you're really anal about your carving and you were trying to carve this guy of mine, and let's assume he was copyrighted, just the nature of you copying him would change him probably more than 10%. So if we had tons of money and wanted to pay lots of lawyers and argue over a copyright issue on this one, I would probably lose, because your item that you copied would be greater than 10%. Does that make sense? I hope that kind of makes sense. So the secondary part to that is, if you make something to copy it and give it away or sell it locally, your exposure is pretty limited on that. You didn't make enough money on it to have stolen from the franchise, and you're not going to attract enough attention on that. It's only when you make it big time that people start getting interested in taking some of your money away. It's kind of like the government, right? You make some money, they want their share of it. So feel free to copy and duplicate items that you see on the web. And keep in mind that 10%, and I could be wrong, you might want to do a little research on that if you really were interested. But you can pretty much copy anything. Now, there is the part about it, I think Rob over at Just Carve Rob said it. Jordy Johnson and I collaborate on a lot of things, and Rob is involved in that. And the rest of those characters down below, if you bother to look them up, we all do a lot of the same things. So someone does a snake, we all do a snake. Someone does a gnome, we all do a gnome. Rob has called this stuff Gnomageddon. I started to show how the simple gnomes, and it seems like I can probably find 10 carvers that did gnomes right after I did the initial gnome. And that's what Rob called Armageddon. So here's the unique treatment that I was talking about earlier. I got a little ball diamond in there, and it's a cheap one, and I'm just using it to put the texture in the rim of the hat. So this is the fluffy, and you can see I did it up on the ball, and I did it around his gloves. Always sign your work so that people know who did it. This makes good sense to me. I won't go into all the stuff on that. I sign it with my initials, and I put the date. I used to, when I was doing a lot of decoys, I would put the month and the date to differentiate between that. But now I just put the year on there. I figure that's enough. So this guy gets painted. I didn't show you. I might show you in the future on that. But here's another take on the gnomes. Here's an easy way to do it. These are good to give away. They seem to be pretty good sellers, and they're pretty straightforward without a whole lot of talent required. So, hey, thanks a lot. This has been Ben with Stu on the Lake. If you haven't subscribed, take the time to do that. If you haven't clicked like, do that also. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.